if you think Donald Trump or Joe Biden or anyone else that is a political figurehead is going to solve your problems, then you are subjugating your power to them. You are giving them your power. And this is the final lesson of Pluto in Capricorn, which makes its final transit through Capricorn from September 1st to November 19th. This is why this is happening now. Because we are being shown that the most powerful person in the world is the person that is staring you back in the mirror.
Welcome to the Weekly Transit, a podcast exploring the intersection of Western astrology and Jungian psychology. Astrology is a language that communicates how the planets and stars influence life on Earth, while psychology helps us navigate both conscious and unconscious experiences. Together, these tools offer the potential for self-understanding, growth, and transformation. Join astrologer Scott Tajarian and me, psychotherapist Gabriella Durso, as we dive into the cosmic forecast each week.
Welcome to the Weekly Transit. This is the week of July 22nd to the 28th. Hi, Gabriella.
Hi, Scott.
Wow, what a week. Last week was very intense, just as we had alluded to on last week's episode. I got a few messages from some of our listeners that were like, wow, so you really called that one. No, I didn't predict that Donald Trump there was going to be an assassination attempt on his life. I don't like getting into those kinds of predictions, but I did say, because of the transits of Mars, the god of war, and Uranus, the planet of revolution, transiting through Taurus, which is the sign of security, there is going to be some unrest with personal security. We're going to get into the transits a little bit later, but I do want to reflect astrologically on Donald Trump. I want to acknowledge that we've had listeners reach out about me doing the a chart analyzation for Paul Walker, Jim Morrison, Jason Bateman, David Bowie. We're going to get to all of them in a later shows, not all in one show, but through over time. And if you are curious about any public figure that you would like me to break down their chart, I am happy to do so. Just reach out to me and let me know who you're interested in. But in this episode, we're going to talk about Donald Trump because of what happened over the weekend and why that happened astrologically. Why is Trump such an agitator? Why is he such a polarizing figure? We're going to look at that astrologically. I think it's very interesting. And it's very telling, too, because as they say, and I feel like it's cheesy to say, but it's so true, it's written in the stars. It really is. First question to answer is, what was going on astrologically for Donald Trump on the day of this assassination attempt? And what was happening, and there's a lot of weird circumstances around that. I don't want to get into the whole conspiracy of everything, but obviously it's very strange that somebody, if this is all true, what's being reported, that someone was able to get within 150 yards of a former U.S. president at a public event where he's speaking with a rifle on a elevated position with a clear line of sight, when you can't even get onto a plane get through security at an airport with a bottle of water. It doesn't make any sense.
Feels a little too easy.
Yeah, it's very strange. And I'm going to get into maybe more of what that means too. But first of all, astrologically, what was happening, we talked about last week, Mars, the god of war, and Uranus, the planet of rebellion, revolution, the unexpected, were forming a conjunction in Taurus. Taurus is the fixed earth sign symbolized by the bull. So Taurus represents security, safety. When you have the bull protecting you, you feel safe, you feel secure. It's about material security. So we knew that something unexpected, something maybe dramatic or traumatic would be occurring around this time. Didn't necessarily know if it would be on the public stage or just in your own life. It really all depends on how it's aligning in your astrological code. And that's what's interesting about Donald Trump, because Donald Trump was born with Mars at 26 degrees in Leo. So Uranus is at 26 degrees in Taurus, and Mars is at 25 degrees in Taurus when this assassination attempt occurred. So Taurus is fixed earth. Leo, where Donald Trump's Mars is at the same degree, 26 degrees, is fixed fire. Fire scorches earth, earth extinguishes fire. They're both fixed. They make a strong connection to each other. But the lion doesn't back down from anyone or anything, and the bull doesn't back down from anyone or anything. So whoever you are, whenever Mars squares your Mars, it doesn't mean that you're going to get shot at, but it certainly indicates that there's going to be some sort of agitation or aggression that is headed your way. Now you have Uranus, the planet of the unexpected, the planet of rebellion. At that same degree, something unexpected is going to happen. Something violently unexpected potentially, or aggressively unexpected potentially. And that's what happened to Donald Trump. It's like the clock ticked, the alarm went off, he got shot. Now, what really stuns me about this alignment with Uranus and Mars is there's another player involved cosmically that we have not mentioned. And that's the fixed star, meaning it does not move. It's always at 26 degrees in Taurus, and that's Algol, the demon star. This is the head of Medusa, the demon who had hair that was made of snakes, and one look at her and you would turn to stone. This is in the constellation known as Perseus, who was the god who slayed Medusa, decapitated her, and used her head in battle to turn others who were battling him to stone. Algol represents upheaval. And so if you've ever wondered why Donald Trump is such an agitator, it's part of his soul's purpose. It's his design. Anyone who's born with Mars at 26 degrees in Leo, your god of war is squaring the demon, Medusa, Algol. So by just acting, by just moving forward, by doing anything in life, individuals who were born with Mars at 26 degrees in Leo are going to create a sense of upheaval through their actions. So that's one aspect. There's one other point about Trump I want to make, and that's that he's a Leo rising. He was born with Mars conjunct his ascendant. His ascendant's at 29 degrees in Leo. That's why he reacted the way that he did on the stage after being shot. He got up. He he pushed the security guards out of the way and wanted to, pump his fist and egg on the crowd and say, fight, fight. Because when he is threatened, when he's scared, he's going to respond as the lion. And it was funny because I did a post of that on Instagram, and somebody reached out to me or commented on my reel and said, my husband is a Leo rising, and he confirmed that if he was ever shot and he's, it was the same situation, he would have definitely reacted the same way. Like, who do you think you're going to try to take down? Don't you know who I am? I'm the king. And so from a historical standpoint, though, thinking about Mars conjunct Uranus, or just Uranus in Taurus at 26 degrees. So this is the first time that Uranus has been at 26 degrees in Taurus since 1942. It happened 3 times in the 40s, 1940, 1941, 1942, and by the time it happened that third time at the end of 41 and early 42, Pearl Harbor had occurred and the United States was at war, World War II. This is the first time that this is happening since then. It's going to happen again in September and October of this year. And then it happens a third time in the end. It's like the third time is from April 25th to May 12th of 2025. So buckle up. Like, what's going to happen? I don't know, but it's going to be intense. That is what history has shown us, because the time before the last time was 1857 to 1858. That was during the midst of the Indian Rebellion in India, when the people of India were rebelling against British occupation. And of course, that was just prior to the American Civil War. It's like the American Civil War started in 1861, but it's not like it just dropped, it just started at a drop of the hat. There was a lot of tension building up that led to that war, just as we're experiencing right now. The time before that was 1773 and to 1774. That was during the British tea tax, the Boston Tea Party, prior to the American Revolution. So here we are again in the same frequency. And here's Trump as this agitator of upheaval. There's some that are grateful for the upheaval that he's creating because they've seen things in the stagnation for a long time and they feel that he is a bringer of change. Other people feel like maybe he's like your neighbor who is using the leaf blower on a lazy Sunday afternoon and you're like, shut up, why do you have to do this on my one peaceful day? Stop making this noise. And then there's people like me who's an observer, who's in the middle and just is seeing how this is all being played out and doesn't have an emotional connection to either of these men. Because I look at Biden too, and Biden, interestingly enough, was born with the sun at 27 degrees in Scorpio, squaring Donald Trump's Mars. So this is why they are a great foil to one another. They agitate each other. Biden's sun, his planet of vitality, is squaring Donald Trump's god of war. And Biden's sun is opposite Algol. So Biden, being born with the sun in Scorpio, Scorpio represents secrets. Being born with the sun in Scorpio opposite Algol, he is here, Biden is here to bring a sense of upheaval to the secrets. And the secrets are what's really going on. This is the universe's way of showing us that we are giving our power to something that does not deserve our power. We are essentially living in the Wizard of Oz. And when you think of the Wizard of Oz, it's probably the most famous film that is based on a dream, because Dorothy is just having a dream. She goes to sleep. She's in this tornado, or she's in the tornado and she's running, she's scared and she gets knocked out. And next thing she knows, she's in the in this other world, this different reality. And there's all these munchkins around, and they're excited. I look at them as like the media. They're telling Dorothy what to do. Oh yeah, this is where we are. They're the media. Follow the yellow brick road. That's how you're going to get home. That's the bling, the money. Dorothy needs to get home. How's she going to get home? There's the great and powerful Oz that's going to get her home. So Dorothy and Toto go along the path, and along the way they meet 3 companions, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion. And the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion, they all need something too. The Scarecrow needs a brain, the Tin Man needs a heart, and the Lion needs courage. And along the way they meet the Wicked Witch who's trying to stop them. It's the evil. They realize all they have to do to end the witch and stop the witch is just pour some water on her. It's very simple. She melts. The witch has all these flying monkeys around that are really scary. Those are like the crazed supporters of these men, of these politicians. Dorothy and her friends get to the Emerald City, the bling, Vegas. Hey, money. That's all you need is money and bling and diamonds and all that sort of stuff. The nice car, the Tesla, the Maserati. They get there and they find the great and powerful Oz. And who is the great and powerful Oz? He's a short, balding, portly, old man who's hiding behind a curtain with a microphone and an amplifier. And he's as scared of them as they are of him. And what does he give them? He gives the Tin Man, the Lion, and the Scarecrow all a token. It says, oh, here's your heart, here's your brain, here's your courage. And they're like, this is it? And they're like, he's like, yeah, there's nothing that I can give you. Like, you already have that within you. You don't need me to give that to you. It already exists within you. Oh, but what about Dorothy? She needs to get home. Okay, well, I guess she can hop a ride on my hot air balloon, and she tries to get on, but then Toto runs off. Oh no, what am I going to do? So I got to get off. I get Toto, but wait, it's too late. The balloon's gone. Oh no, Dorothy's gone forever. She's never going to get home. But what does Dorothy do? She remembers all she has to do is click her heels and say, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. And she manifests, waking up from her dream, and she's home. And that is essentially the story of life. The story of your life, of my life, of everyone's life. And that's why this film, this story which is so old, is still so known and popular, because there's so much truth to it, because it's showing us our reality. If you think Donald Trump or Joe Biden or anyone else that is a political figurehead is going to solve your problems, then you are subjugating your power to them. You are giving them your power. And this is the final lesson of Pluto in Capricorn, which makes its final transit through Capricorn from September 1st to November 19th. This is why this is happening now. Because we are being shown that the most powerful person in the world is the person that is staring you back in the mirror. The most powerful person in the world is the person that is staring you back in the mirror. Now, just one more note about those who were born with Mars at 26 degrees in Leo, and how those individuals are agitators and bringers of upheaval. The one that jumps to my mind was a leader during World War II. And no, I know you're thinking, but it's not Hitler. close, Emperor Hirohito, the leader of the Empire of Japan that bombed Pearl Harbor, was also born, like Donald Trump, with Mars at 26 degrees in Leo. He was a bringer of upheaval and chaos. Alan Dershowitz, the attorney, if you don't know him, look him up. You'll see he also brings upheaval. He's also 26 degrees Mars in Leo. So, no judgment there. Everybody has their role on planet Earth. Everyone. Whether you like them or not. And I try to like everyone because I remember that everyone that I speak of, that I come into contact with, reflects me. Donald Trump reflects me. Joe Biden reflects me. We are of the same cosmic soul, playing out this dream together, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
I think the people who come with that energy of upheaval, really, there's a personal sacrifice.
Absolutely, yes.
That comes with that.
Think about it. Do you want to get shot? That's a personal sacrifice right there.
Well, that's not what I mean.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, and I've been letting you just kind of
I love it. Thank you.
run with this today because I think it's interesting. We're kind of representing maybe the polarity that's out there around politics, because you're very energized by this and I feel very depleted by it. And I think both are really valid responses to kind of the energy of our times and really politics in general. Because the two primary political parties are creating division and tension, I think that it makes sense that the responses on an individual level could also be polarizing. Like some people feel excited and energized and others depleted and exhausted and sort of hopeless. So I think that's just worth mentioning that we're kind of coming to this from different perspectives. So if you're someone who is in sort of the depleted side of things, I feel you. And there's no wrong response to anything that's going on. But what I mean about the personal sacrifice is anytime most political or public figures in general have to contend with this, but anytime you're in the spotlight like that, there's a higher likelihood that you're going to be projected upon because you're playing a role. If you look at movie stars, they're playing up a particular set of qualities in their personality. And they're not showing you all aspects of who they are. And so it's the same way with politicians. And that is literally the definition of projection. When you're taking an emotional experience that belongs to you and projecting it onto someone else and focusing all of your energy on that emotion, you're only seeing that particular part of them. So it's almost like they're setting us up for projection when they're presenting themselves with such polarity. So it's interesting how I think the environment is feeding the projections, and the projections are more likely to lead to division and sort of rigid points of view on an individual level. So I think that's worth noting.
Absolutely.
And I think you and I are two of the only people I know who feel kind of neutral about these figures. I feel pretty neutral about most public figures and politicians. I think whenever I'm experiencing them speaking or communicating or represented somehow in the media, I've started to actually think of it like a movie. Like this is a character that they're playing.
Yes.
And this is what, not from a paranoid point of view, but this is how they want to be seen, and how does that benefit them?
Mm-hmm.
How does it benefit them for me to hate them? Like if something is trying to incite hatred in me, how does that benefit the system?
They're feeding off of our energy. And so you're depleted. I'm energized, but either way, they're getting our energy. And
They are.
And I don't want to be talking about politics and Donald Trump, but I feel like part of my, I feel this like calling to draw people away from the chaos. I mean, I've spent my whole life really, I remember the first election that I was fully invested in was 1984. I was 8 years old. And I remember telling my parents to vote for Ronald Reagan. They wanted to vote for Mondale, Walter Mondale. But, that's how I was. I felt that political energy then. And so I've spent, it's habit to be invested in some way. But over time, I've just realized that it doesn't matter who gets elected. The people always lose. We get less freedom, more restrictions, the government gets bigger, and the people lose power. It doesn't matter who wins, which side, that's always what happens. And they will tell you, the Republicans, that they want to make a smaller government, but then they don't. They make it bigger. And the Democrats say they want to help people, but they don't. They help the corporations. And it's just a giant facade. And I just am constantly thinking about that story in the Bible of Sodom and Gomorrah, where God was disgusted with what was going on there and wanted to destroy this place. And the angels said, well, we want to save Lot and his family. He's a righteous man. His family's righteous. And God said, okay, fine. So they get him out, but they tell him and his family, don't look back. Don't look back. If you look back, then you will be caught in the chaos and you will perish. And Lot's wife looks back and she is taken and dies. And that just makes me think of what happened over the weekend with these spectators that were either injured or killed during this tragic act of violence. For years, I've been looking at these images on TV of whether it's Trump, Biden, whoever the politician is, and you just see this grandstand of people behind them. And I just think, man, it just makes me think of that bale of hay that's behind the target at the firing range. You're right in the line of fire. So if you're going to engage in this kind of mayhem, this chaos, and you're going to align yourself with one of these sides, then you're putting yourself at risk.
Well, you're limiting your ability to see the other perspective. And again, we have to ask ourselves, how does our governmental system benefit from us being divided?
Exactly.
We're just not asking the right questions.
Exactly.
And we're not focusing our energy on the right places.
And that's it, 100%.
Well, it's like the Wizard of Oz. What's interesting to me about that example, as it relates to the human experience, like you said, is that so often we have to realize that what we thought was the answer is not the answer before we can actually find it. So I do think there's something to going through a period of life, living in sort of the illusion, perhaps, because we know that as much as we're moving towards an experience of non-duality, we also very much live in a dualistic place. You know, we have night and day, we have the sun and the moon, we are experiencing life through opposites. And so in order to recognize what freedom is, we have to also recognize what freedom is not. And so I think some of that is by design, and that illusion can actually serve us in some way. But I do think that we're ready on a larger scale to wake up to some of this.
We're in the end stages of the age of Pisces. And you look back over the last 2,000 years, who knows what's true, what's a fact? I got into a discussion with a friend earlier this week, and he's like, well, that's not a fact. I'm like, what's a fact? I mean, what is
I
a
admire
fact?
people who are so sure. Because honestly,
what is a fact?
We don't know what is real at all when it's on a television screen.
The only thing that I know that's
We
a
just
fact
don't. We just don't.
is that I'm sitting here, right now with you. I'm breathing. I'm talking. I just had lunch. Those are facts. I don't know what a fact is when it comes to history, the history of this country, the history of the world. I don't know. And anyone that tells you they know is just giving you their best guess because they don't know. They just think they know.
Mm-hmm.
There is no facts when it comes to history or what's going on out there. This is the age of Pisces. So we have to learn to tap into our intuition. And through that, we also need to show compassion to ourselves and to others. And so that's why I don't look at one side or the other as better than the other. To me, they're the same. They're different in their own ways, but in the way that they put forth their energy, it's the same. And I have compassion for them, and I have compassion for the people that follow them and believe in them, because I've been one of those people. I've been a passionate Republican. I've been a passionate Democrat. I've been on both sides, and maybe that's why I am where I am right now, because I just realized that it didn't matter which side I was rooting for. They always disappoint me. And they always go against what they said they were going to do in the first place.
Well, and we always have the same problems.
Exactly.
It's always the same tension.
Yep.
So what you said about expecting someone externally to fix your problems really spoke to me. I think we really need to practice implementing change on an individual level in order to create collective change.
Yes.
And I think
that's it.
And I think that's something that we keep coming back to and learning. We keep waiting for our environment to change through the political landscape. Mm-hmm. And we keep being shown, examples of it's just like name calling. And it's so absurd at this point. The best thing that we can do is to look outside of us, and whatever those activations and irritations are, to be willing to look at where we have that in our own system and how can we improve ourselves, how can we improve our relationships, and just do the best that we can on an individual level. Amen. Within our local communities, our families, and turn off the TV.
Yes. Amen. Amen. It's all about self-empowerment. Self-empowerment. The most powerful person in the world is the one who's staring back at you in the mirror. And I'm talking about when Gabriella and I are looking in the mirror together and she's staring at me. So what a great conversation. Thank you, Gabriella. I think it's an important conversation, and I look forward to having more of these deep conversations as we move forward in this, this really sort of tenuous time. Because let me tell you, it's not going to we're not just going to cruise to the election. It's going to get more intense this year, next year, moving forward, the way these transits are headed. But I don't tell you this to put fear in you. I do it to empower you, to let you know that you have the power to work with this energy, to make the changes that you want to make in your life. And remember, whatever is going on in the world, focus on finding peace in your life, peace and prosperity in your life. And through that, you will share and resonate that energy to those around you, your friends, your family, your community. And that is how the world changes, not by believing in someone who's running for office. That's a facade.
I just want to acknowledge that the opinions that we're expressing here are pretty counter to sort of the environment in which we live here in Los Angeles. And I think there's largely a consensus that focusing on yourself is actually selfish, and that you need to be out there as an activist, involved politically to create change. And I do think for some people that that's energetically correct for them, but it's not for everybody, and it's certainly not for me.
Right.
So we're not saying that we are expressing personal opinions about our understanding of what works for us energetically, and kind of some larger thoughts about the system as a whole. But I do think that it comes down to what works best for the individual, and there is no one size fits all answer for everyone.
Absolutely.
And I start to get really activated by this perspective that when I focus on myself, I'm selfish, or if I need to disengage from the news, that I'm selfish. I guess we're here to just represent maybe the other narrative that says that that's not selfish.
I love it. I mean, yeah, I'll echo what you said. Everybody is here on their own path, and I trust that whoever is ready or meant to hear what Gabriella and I have to share, like, this is going to reach those people. I'm certainly not going to go to a rally for Biden or Trump and try to tell people that they shouldn't be at that rally or any sort of political march. Go do it. If that's what, if that's your thing, then yes. I've been on the marches. I've marched before. I've marched through Los Angeles. I've been at political rallies before. I've watched the news incessantly. I understand that that is not my vibe through my own personal experience. Other people, through their personal experience, it is their vibe, and good for them.
Well, and I think it speaks to maybe a need to broaden the definition of what it means to be an activist. What you're describing is more of a classic like activism, where you're going out and trying to create change externally.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, activism looks a lot more like facing my own inner life and being willing to look at how are these outer influences reflected in myself. And to me, that is a form of activism.
Absolutely. I think you bring up another interesting point too about the selfishness and focusing on yourself. And I really love that you brought that up, because it's so pertinent to especially this week. And let's get into the transits. I want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, the first transit of the week is the sun. The sun transits into Leo this week, the sign that it rules. The sun is the giver of light, life, and vitality. Leo is the fixed fire sign, symbolized by the lion. The sun is in its position of power. When you think of selfishness, Leo is all about, look at me. I'm the king. I'm the star. This is Trump on the stage saying, you can't get me. It's that putting yourself out there energy. So there is going to be a lot of power in self-expression, expressing the identity. This is who I am. But the intensity of this week, I think it's only going to rise this week from last week, because of not only the sun moving into Leo, but as it moves into Leo, it immediately forms an opposition with Pluto, the god of death, lord of the underworld, the planet of transformation, transiting retrograde through the fixed air sign symbolized by the water bearer, Aquarius. And then right after that, the sun forms a sextile with Mars, the god of war, the planet of action, aggression, and conflict, in the mutable air sign symbolized by the twins, Gemini. So the sun in its strongest position of power, transiting through Leo, immediately aligns in opposition to the god of death and in a sextile with the god of war. What does that tell you? I mean,
Stay inside and
yeah, exactly.
take a nap. I'm
only going to go to the grocery store like the hour before they close, and that's the only time I'm leaving my house. No, but it's
so everything's ramping up.
Well,
and it feels to me like anyone else out there who struggles with summer or with like hot temperatures, it's like someone slowly turning up the heat, literally.
Yes.
Where it's like, I don't want to go outside. I'm getting a sunburn from in here, you know? It's that kind of a feeling.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, it's turning up the heat. Things are heating up. The planet that is the fireball, the sun that is the hottest planet, right? It's aligning with Mars and Pluto. So it's energizing that warlike energy. It's energizing that death-like energy. It's urging for transformation to society, to the community. It's urging for listening from your heart. Remember, we talked about that last week with Mars moving into Gemini. Mars, the god of war, in the sign of communication. That means having the courage to listen. Though on the flip side of the coin, it means that everyone's going to be screaming and yelling at each other, or maybe fighting with their words. That's what's coming up this week. So these transits are happening, let's just say all week. I mean, the sun moves into Leo on July 22nd, and it's there until August 22nd, 23rd, depending on where you are in the world, as it moves out every year. So the next 30 days is that opportunity to really live from your heart center and to be bold. But the alignment with Pluto is happening from Sunday to Wednesday. The alignment with Mars is Monday to Saturday. So it's basically all week, this energy.
I think of this time as interesting as it relates to like summer and spending time being out in the sun. You know, like my personal experience with the sun is, I mean, it's life-giving when you're cold and the sun is warming you first thing in the morning, or you get outside in the morning and it supports your circadian rhythm of helping your body know you're awake. But we all know that when you start to spend too much time in the sun, that it's not healing and helpful anymore. It's harmful. And you can look at that with any of the elements. Like we need water to live, but we can also drown. Exactly. You know, there's this polarity that exists in all things. And so it's about having the wisdom to know how much you can engage with each of these energies. Like for me, the sun is more challenging for me to be outside in the direct heat. So I'm going to take better care of myself in the summer. But some people live all year, you know, for the summer, and they love to be outside and be in the sun. So whatever kind of experience you're having, just take care of yourself.
I think that's great advice. And that is the higher frequency of these energies. What feels good to you? When the sun is in Leo, it's what feels good to you. What do you enjoy? What do you love?
What does your heart want?
What does your heart want? What makes your heart feel open? When your heart is open, you're laughing, you're joyful, you're playful. Think of a child. You know, a child wants to have fun. They have such beautiful open hearts. They're enjoying themselves. What do you enjoy? What energizes you? That is what this is about.
Well, and on a deeper level too, what do you desire?
What do you desire? Absolutely. Yes. Mercury also transits into a position of power. So the sun is transiting into Leo, which is the sign that it rules. Mercury is transiting into Virgo, the sign that it rules, the mutable earth sign symbolized by the Virgin. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, guide of souls to the underworld, the planet of consciousness, communication, and coordination. This is the first of two stints where Mercury is going to be transiting through Virgo, because it is going to only transit the first 4 degrees of Virgo, and then it's going to retrograde back into Leo, back to 21 degrees in Leo before it moves forward into Virgo again and clears the rest of that sign. So from July 25th until August 14th, Mercury is going to be at 0 to 4 degrees in Virgo. So those of you that were born with key astrological points or planets at those first 4 degrees, especially in mutable signs, earth signs, or water signs, focus on your communication. If you want some deeper insight into how this transit, this next Mercury retrograde is going to be affecting you, or the sun in Leo, or any other transit, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. If you're interested in learning more about your astrological code, who you are, why you're here, what you're meant to do with your life, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. It is my honor to help you understand who you are so you can accept, appreciate, and love the divine, unique miracle that is you. So
I also have a new website.
Oh, what?
Which has been a long time coming. And I would
Yes.
say it's still in its beginning stages. But those of you who've reached out and expressed curiosity about working together, you might be interested in seeing the website. And
It's amazing. Gabriella
Thank
is
you.
an incredible designer, and she is an incredible example of Virgo energy, because it has been a long time coming. I remember back in December, Gabriella said that the website would be done in 2 weeks. And here it is in July, and she's still working on it.
And I still feel like it's not done, but
So
so there's a version of it out in the world. It's GabriellaDurso.com, and we'll add it to maybe the show notes for this episode.
Okay, great.
And feel free to reach out if you have any questions or curiosities about working together. And just to clarify, because some of you who are not in the state of California have reached out. So therapy itself is only available within the state of California because of the restrictions of my license. But I can also work with clients who are out of state as a counselor, which is a different set of skills that I use with those clients. And so if you are out of state and interested in working together, please let me know and we can talk more about if that's a fit for you. I also have an update. In addition to the therapy and the counseling work, I'm going to be offering 1-session dream consultations for anyone who's curious about maybe a recurring dream or a new dream that you've had. Those sessions will be 90 minutes, and we'll have time to go deeply into a specific dream that you might have curiosities about. So please reach out to me if you're interested in doing some dream work together as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Gabriella. So let's think a little bit about this Mercury in Virgo transit. It's happening for just over 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks. It's the first 4 degrees. And then the second time Mercury transits through Virgo is going to be September 8th to the 26th. Now, the last time Mercury transited through Virgo was July 28th to October 4th, 2023. That was last year. The entire time Mercury was retrograde in Virgo. That was an extended period. But this is giving us a little taste to really hone in on our daily lives, your routine, your health, your diet, your job. Where are you in these areas? And what parts of these areas do you want to tinker with? We know that Gabriella is going to be tinkering with her website. But what about you? Where are you going to be focusing your attention? Because that's what Mercury in Virgo is about. It's really helping you see the details, see the things that you miss, get into the nuances. Now, of course, we don't like to start any new projects during Mercury retrograde, and the retrograde doesn't begin until early August, so we're not quite there yet, but we are in the retrograde shadow period. So you really just want to be focusing on what is already on your plate. Slow down, take your time, and really be mindful of where you might be overly critical of yourself, because when Mercury is in its retrograde shadow or retrograde, there is a lot of second guessing that tends to go on, and that's why there's an urge to divert off the path and start something new, which you don't want to do, because by the time Mercury is direct again and it's out of the shadow, you're like, why did I stop that project? I should have just kept working on that. I started this other thing and now I don't even know what to do with it. So just maybe write down. Mercury in Virgo has a lot of writing energy because Virgo is earth. So it's putting the mind into reality. So write down what it is you plan to accomplish or get done during this period when Mercury is in its retrograde shadow. I wanted to mention also that last week I did a podcast with Delisa Hawking, who is a 5th generation psychic. We were on her YouTube channel discussing the coming presidential election. So we recorded that before the assassination attempt, but I think that a lot that's in there still resonates with that energy, because we're just talking about how crazy it's going to be. But Delisa is amazing, and I really recommend you check her out. I will put the link to my conversation with her in the show notes, but give her a follow on Instagram too if you are interested. She does daily updates, reels, really interesting topics about anything that you're interested in. Like if you're interested in the esoteric or ghosts or what is existing beyond what we can see in the 5 physical senses, she's an expert in that area and a really wonderful, wonderful woman. I'm also going to be on another podcast made with Jackie Hansel. This is one of our listeners, and this podcast that she does, she interviews people, and the guests choose a film that they want to discuss with her. So of course, the film that I'm going to be discussing with her, and I will let you know when it's released, is going to be The Wizard of Oz. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation.
Was it a tie between that and Top Gun?
You know, that's a great question, Gabriella. You know, I was thinking about Top Gun or one of the Mission Impossible films, but I'm just like, they're honestly just entertainment. They don't really have that like deeper meaning for me, like The Wizard of Oz. And I didn't even think of The Wizard of Oz until the Trump assassination attempt. And then I was like, just The Wizard of Oz was just so heavy in my mind. I was like, okay, that's it, because there's so much depth to that film, and it's pertinent to know.
I'm just poking at you. I'm glad you're not doing Top Gun.
I know. Yeah. I know, my love. Thank you. I know when you're giving me a hard time. So our final transit of the week is Chiron, the wound, and the ancient wisdom that is unlocked through healing that wound, which is transiting retrograde through the cardinal fire sign symbolized by the ram, Aries. And this is also why I really love that you brought up that reframing of selfishness, because with Chiron transiting through Aries, and of course the North Node, which we didn't mention this week, but the North Node is of course transiting through Aries. These are long-term transits. Aries is the sign of the self. We're meant to be focusing on ourselves right now. And the reason is because of this Pluto in Aquarius transit. With this Pluto and Aquarius transit occurring, there's a transformation to the community.
Well, and we have to remember That a community is made up of individuals.
Exactly.
Right.
That's my point. Like,
right.
In order to be a good community member, you need to know who you are.
Well, you need to, be fulfilled in your role in the community.
Exactly. Who are you? What are you bringing to the table?
So it's not either or. Think of it this way. A community where everyone has to think and do and be the same way is called a cult.
Yes, exactly.
That's actually not a healthy, functioning community.
Exactly.
So at the same time that we're being challenged with the wound to our self-confidence in Aries, we're also being invited into facing that and stepping into it.
Absolutely. Yes. And when you think about this transit on a historical level, the last time Chiron was in Aries was 1968 to 1977. That was the day that Chiron moved into Aries in 1968 was the day that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And then you had the Nixon impeachment, the Vietnam War. It was a time of great insecurity. Chiron was in Aries during the American Revolution, another period of great personal insecurity. So here we are again. So what are you going to do to step into your fears, to face your fears, to run towards your fears instead of from them?
Well, I think about this like having a wound. The wound has to be cleaned. It has to be inspected. You need air in the wound. You need to be willing to really face it before you can put the bandage on and begin the healing process.
Absolutely. Yes.
Our question today comes from Jenny Starpepper. When will we be in the Aquarius Age? I heard it will be when the spring equinox begins in the sign of Aquarius versus Aries. Precession of the equinox is the theory. Have you heard or studied this?
Thank you, Jenny, for your question. Yes, I have heard and studied the concept of the age of Aquarius or the Aquarius Age, which is linked to the precessions of the equinoxes. This is an astrological phenomenon that involves a gradual shift in the orientation of the Earth's axis of rotation, leading to a change in the position of the equinoxes over a cycle of approximately 25,800 years. This is why I always say the next time the planets and stars will be aligned in the way that they were aligned when you were born is over 25,000 years from the date, time, and place of your birth. So every 2,100, 2,200 years, we move into a new age. We are in the age of Pisces. Some will disagree with me, but I look at it from what I'm seeing in the world. What I see in the world is Pisces and not Aquarius. I see Pisces because there is so much illusion, confusion, deception. Nobody knows what's real. And it's becoming more and more difficult to discern what is real and what is not real. So the precession of the equinoxes causes the position of the sun at the vernal equinox, the start of the spring in the northern hemisphere, to move backwards through the zodiac signs over millennia. This means the sun will rise in a different zodiac sign at the spring equinox over long periods. Concept of the astrological age is based on this precession. Each age lasts, about 2,160 years, and is named after the zodiac sign in which the vernal equinox sun resides. There's dispute over when the age of Pisces will end and the age of Aquarius will begin, but it's interesting because
which is very Piscean.
Exactly, right? And the age of Pisces, it began around the birth of Christ, which is so interesting because Christ is the symbol for Christ beyond the cross is that symbol for the fish. And he talked about turning you into fishers of men. He walked on water. He turned water into wine. Fish, water, wine, these are all ruled by Pisces.
But even the fact that Christmas is during Capricorn season speaks to the illusion.
Exactly.
Because it really should be during Pisces season.
Exactly. Jesus Christ was a Pisces. I don't think he was a Capricorn. That doesn't make any sense.
There's something weird there.
It doesn't make any sense. He's a Pisces because he's very compassionate, right? He came to heal people. That's Pisces energy. It's not Capricorn. If he was Capricorn, he'd be trying to rule the world. Anyway, the age of Aquarius follows the age of Pisces. So it's going to happen after this. And if you think about it, 2160 years, if this began when Christ was born at 1 AD or 0 AD, then we've got another 140 years or so until we begin the age of Aquarius. So sadly, none of us are going to make it there. But what we're here to do is to usher in that new age. We're here to usher in that new age. We're here to close out the Piscean age. This is a very, very important time to be alive, because your soul was contracted to come here and help us close out this very important age, the Piscean age. So I hope that answers your question, Jenny. Thanks again for reaching out to us and for listening to the podcast.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to the weekly transit. If you're curious to learn how these transits or any others may be affecting you, or if you are interested in learning more about your astrological code, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. If you're interested in delving into the world of psychotherapy with Gabriella, you can connect with her at innervisionpsychotherapy.com. This episode was produced by me, Scott Tajarian. Music written by Ben Leinbach from Listen Deep by Amber Herzog-Lyman. Wishing you all the best as you ride the planetary waves.